Welcome, dreamers. Tonight we dive into one day in 16th century Scotland, as a witch hunter who starts to doubt. The wind here bites through wool and bone alike, and the breath of the moors is thick with smoke and secrets. You're walking a path few return from, through a world where mercy is seen as weakness and silence is mistaken for guilt. The villagers will watch you from behind shutters, their prayers quieter than the crows. You probably won't survive this, not unchanged. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? You're not just hearing this story, you're living it. Right here, right now, through someone else's eyes. I wake before the bell tolls, not from a dream, but from that hollow stillness that comes when sleep has abandoned you before the sun even bothers to rise. The fire in the hearth has gone to ash, and the air smells faintly of char and damp wool. My boots sit near the door, already coated with yesterday's crust of peat. Outside, the sky is a kind of bruised purple, the kind you only see before dawn when something dreadful is about to happen, or already has. The gallows stand on the hill. They always do. From this small, borrowed room above the tavern, I can see the crooked shape of the wooden frame through a gap in the shutter. It looks less like a tool of justice today, and more like a skeletal finger pointing at the heavens, demanding explanation. There's supposed to be a trial this morning. I dress in silence. I don't need the bell. I've done this long enough to know the rhythm of these mornings by heart. Wash, bind the worn leather jerkin, tighten the belt, fasten the pouch with the iron tokens, the parchment, the bit of chalk, the red wax seal. Someone downstairs coughs into a tankard. The stairs creak. The tavern keeper's eyes meet mine as I descend, and he quickly looks away. Last night he offered me ale. This morning he offers me nothing. Even the bread is cold when I touch it. The church bell finally groans into motion, slow and reluctant, like even the old brass doesn't want to ring for this. I step outside. Mist clings to the heather, the kind of mist that holds sound like a secret. I walk past the baker's, the smithy, the shuttered windows with dried bundles of rowan tied to the lintels. A child peeks from behind a curtain, face pale as milk. He ducks back before I can even offer a nod. I am not hated. Not exactly. Not yet. But I'm something else. Feared, perhaps. Or simply avoided. Like a stain that can't be washed out of the world, no matter how many times the rain falls. At the edge of the village, where the land curls upward, the hill waits, and upon it, the scaffold. Already, a small crowd gathers, silent, wrapped in shawls and suspicion. I recognize some of the faces: farmers, washerwomen, the elderly shepherd who once offered me goat's milk on a warm day last spring. He doesn't look at me now. I pause halfway up the slope, breath visible, and in the stillness I hear it. Not a scream. Not yet. But a sound. A kind of low keening, barely audible, like someone remembering pain they haven't yet felt. At the top, the constable waits, grim-faced. His hand rests on the hilt of a blade he likely hasn't sharpened in years. "She's ready," he says. I nod. They bring her out. She doesn't fight, doesn't cry, just walks, barefoot, through the frost-hardened mud, eyes fixed somewhere far beyond the village. Her shift is stained, her hair is tangled. She might be 19 or 30. It's hard to tell. The weather ages people here faster than time itself. Do you confess? I ask, though the words taste like wood in my mouth. She looks at me, not through me, not above me, at me, and says, I saw you when you were a child. You cried by the river. My throat tightens. I say nothing. The crowd stirs, unsure whether to gasp or laugh, but no one speaks, not even the wind. I draw the parchment. My hand shakes only a little. She says no more. I mark the scroll. Seal it. The executioner does not hesitate. The trapdoor opens, and for one silent, suspended moment, she is free. Arms spread like wings, hair flying, face turned toward the gray sky like she might rise instead of fall. But she falls, and the mist does not clear. The crowd disperses slowly. Some weep. Others murmur prayers. A boy leaves a sprig of dried heather at the base of the gallows. I remain still. She saw me. How could she know about the river? No one knew. I was alone that day. Or I thought I was. Even now, years later, I can still feel the water on my boots, the bite of the current as I tried to fish a drowning lamb from the stream. I failed. I sat for hours afterward, soaked and shivering and ashamed, and I cried. But only the trees saw. Didn't they? How could she have known? The thought stays with me as I descend the hill. People give me space, not out of respect, out of fear that whatever clings to me might rub off. I don't blame them, because right now, I'm afraid too. Afraid that the dead remember more than the living. Afraid that not everything I've done can be explained away by duty. And afraid that this first moment of doubt, isn't a crack in the surface. It's the beginning of something much deeper. Something I might not survive. I don't return to the tavern. I don't think I could sit on that uneven bench with its splintered edge and pretend the crust of bread didn't scrape my throat. I don't want to answer the innkeeper's cautious glances or pretend that the room upstairs doesn't still smell like a stranger's sleep. Instead, I walk. The mist has thickened now, curling low around my knees like a dog with bad intentions. The village falls behind me as I take the worn path that runs along the old stone wall, past the sheep fields and the gnarled trees that always seem to lean a little closer when you're not looking. There's no destination in mind, just motion. Just the sound of boots through frost-bitten grass and the slow breath of a man who suddenly feels his own lungs with too much awareness. Half an hour later, I find myself near the outskirts of the old farmstead, the one where they used to gather peat in spring and hang fish to dry on long wooden racks. It's nearly abandoned now. One corner of the thatched roof has caved in, and ivy crawls through the windows like it's trying to reclaim what little humanity ever lived here. But that's not what makes me stop. It's the ash, dark and soft underfoot, as though a fire had burned not just the hearth, but the very ground. I crouch, pressing 2 fingers into the dust, then bring them to my nose. It's not from the gallows pyre. Too cold, too faint. This is older. A child's doll lies nearby, one glass eye missing, a cloth body wrapped in threadbare linen now streaked with gray. Who would burn something here? And why? I glance around. No footprints, no carriage marks, only my own, and a single feather-thin trail like something was dragged. Curiosity itches like a rash behind my eyes. I follow the trail. Not far, just a dozen steps behind the house, to a mound covered in half-dead heather and a little wooden cross stabbed into the soil at a tilt. It's nameless, fresh, and wrong. The heather hasn't grown back fully, and there's a charred ring near the base of the cross. My stomach shifts. Something about this place feels unfinished. like it's still waiting for the last act in a play no one agreed to be part of. A crow lands on the cross. It cocks its head, looks at me, and speaks, not in words, but in a noise that sounds almost like one, a syllable. I step back. The crow doesn't move, just keeps watching, its feathers ruffling slightly in the wind, eyes blacker than ink. I don't like the feeling that it's waiting for something, for me to say something back. Instead, I turn and walk, quickly this time, boots crunching over frost and stone, heart louder than it ought to be. The church is open when I arrive, as it always is. No one locks churches in places like this, not because of trust, but because of fear. Lock the door, and maybe God won't get in when you need him most. The air inside is thick with candle wax and damp wool. No one is here. Not even the curate, who normally sits slumped in the last pew like a lump of sorrow in robes too large for his frame. The altar cloth is askew. One of the candle holders is bent. But what draws my attention is the scent. Lavender. Not dried. Fresh. It's tucked beneath the altar, as though someone left it there in offering or warning. Lavender is a burial flower. I reach for it, and when my fingers brush the stem, a memory erupts, sharp and bright like a coal underfoot. I was 8. There was a woman who used to sing in the fields. Her name? I can't recall. No one ever called her anything but the Weaver. She wove songs into her thread, or so the other children said. They said if you wore her cloth, dreams would find you before nightmares could. One day she disappeared. Some said she left. Some said she was taken. Others said the woods swallowed her whole. But I remember the lavender. She always smelled of it. Even when the wind blew every other scent away, she remained. I dropped the flower, not out of fear, out of shame. Because I was there the night they took her. I didn't stop them. I didn't speak. I didn't know what they meant when they said witch. Only that everyone I trusted had decided she needed to vanish. And so she did. I sit heavily in the pew. The wood creaks like an old voice trying to form words. What if this job, this calling, has never been about justice? What if it's just a quieter way to burn people? What if I'm not cleansing evil? What if I'm delivering it? I press my palms together, but no prayer comes. Only silence. And somewhere outside the stone walls, a child is laughing. It's a sound that doesn't belong here. Not today. And yet it drifts through the stained glass, as if daring me to believe the world still holds softness. But I can't. Not after this morning. Not with ash still under my nails. Not with a grave still warm behind me. And not when a crow looked me in the eye and nearly said my name. The parchment feels heavier today. It always weighs something, sure. Thick vellum never folds the way you want it to. But this is different. As I unroll it back in my quarters, the names stare up at me with the calm finality of headstones. Inked yesterday, maybe this morning. The seal is still faintly tacky. 7 names, 7 lives. And one of them I know. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and press my fingers to my temples. The skin there throbs, not with pain, but with that thick, slow ache that comes when memory and guilt have started speaking to each other. Her name is Esme. I haven't thought of her in years. Not since the old harvest days, when laughter was easier, when we were just children daring each other to steal apples from the manor orchard. She once baked me a rye loaf as thanks for returning a lost sheep. I remember it so clearly. Warm, wrapped in cloth, with a single sprig of thyme tied to the top. I hadn't told her how hungry I'd been, but she must have known. Why is her name here? Esme Dunroe, of Eldercraft Suspicion and Witnessed Moonrights. Moonrights? That's just how she prayed. She'd walk the ridges and sing songs to the sky. I remember thinking it made the stars stay out longer. We all used to do things like that when we were younger, when the world still had room for magic that didn't end in fire. I sit back. Could this be a mistake? But the ink is official, the sigil authentic, and my seal is meant to finish the work, not question it. Still, my hands hover. What if this list isn't justice? What if it's just fear and fancy script? A knock rattles the door. 3 sharp taps, like someone trying not to be caught knocking. It's the boy, the stable lad. He's pale and thin and shaking under his patched cloak. I nod, letting him in, and he wastes no time speaking. "You're wanted at the edge of the fields," he says. "Something's been found." "Who sent you?" He hesitates. "No one, really. Just everyone." I tuck the parchment into the inner pocket of my coat and follow him out into the cold again. The fields stretch wide and flat, rimmed by stone fences and scattered with what's left of the autumn harvest. There's frost on the stalks, even though the sun has begun to show behind the clouds. A group has gathered near the elder tree. I recognize a few of them. The baker, the widow McRhea, old Fergus, who hasn't spoken in nearly a year. They part as I approach, their eyes unreadable. At the base of the tree lies a bundle, cloth soaked dark. I crouch and peel it back. Inside is a hen, or was. Its feathers are torn, body twisted. But it's not just death that makes the breath hitch in my throat. It's the symbol carved into the earth beneath it. A spiral, carefully drawn with salt and ashes. Someone's trying to make it look like a rite. A dark one. But it's too clean, too performed. No true practitioner would leave something this deliberate in public view. This feels placed, planted, framed. "You recognize it?" the widow asks. Her voice trembles, but her eyes hold something stronger than fear, something close to suspicion. "Not directly," I say. That's not a lie. But it isn't quite true either. I stand, bury the bird, scatter the salt, and say nothing. She flinches. "But we say nothing," I repeat. They obey, though reluctantly, but their glances linger. Someone here is playing at fear, or stoking it. As I walk back, the boy trails behind. "Do you believe in witches?" he asks suddenly. His voice is small, but it cuts the morning air like a knife. "I believe in what people do when they're afraid," I say. He seems to think on that. Then, "My sister used to sing to the moon. Is that bad?" "No," I answer. "Not unless someone else decides it is." We reach the fork in the road where he must turn toward the stables. He pauses. "What if I told you I saw someone leave the tree last night?" My breath stills. "Who?" He swallows. "A woman. Dark hair. Red scarf." I nod slowly. "You did well to tell me." He looks up, searching my face for something. Approval? Forgiveness? I don't know. But before I can say more, he runs. Back to the horses. Back to safety. And I am left standing with Esme's face forming behind my eyes. She used to wear a red scarf. Embroidered with little suns, she stitched herself. Said it kept the chill off the back of her neck. Is it her? Or is someone trying to make it her? Either way, I feel something shift in the air around me. The kind of shift that doesn't come from wind. The kind that whispers, "You are being watched." And more unsettling than that. You've been watched for a very long time. I don't go looking for her. Not right away. Instead, I walk the southern path toward the weaver's hut. Not the old one. Not the one from my childhood, half swallowed by bramble and forgotten under moss. This one is new, if such a word can apply to anything made of stone and prayer. The hut sits on the edge of the wood, far enough from the village to be considered suspicious, but not far enough to be safely forgotten. Smoke curls from the flue. Not much, just a ribbon, pale and steady. I knock. No answer. I knock again, and the door creaks open under its own weight. Inside, the scent hits first. Not foul, not sweet, something in between. Earthy, like crushed roots and warmed honey left too long near a fire. She sits by the loom, hands still, eyes watching me before I fully enter. Not surprised, not afraid, just waiting. She's older than I remember, but not by much. Time has added fine lines, not years. Her hair is darker now, braided back beneath a kerchief. The red scarf lies folded on a stool beside her. I step inside. Esme. She nods once. I thought you'd come. I saw your name. I know. The loom clicks, just once, as if remembering something mechanical and ancient. You were always quiet, she says, not unkindly. Even then, I don't speak. Not yet. My tongue feels like stone. The parchment in my coat crinkles when I move, and I know she hears it. She doesn't flinch. Did you place the bird? I ask. She turns slightly. Do you think I'd need to? To prove what they already believe? That makes me pause. They saw a woman, I say. Red scarf. After dusk, she shrugs. It was cold. The scarf is warm. That's not a crime. Someone carved a spiral, salt and ash. Her eyes narrow slightly. A child's imitation, crude, messy, made for you to find. You think it's a setup? She tilts her head. I think someone wants the next fire lit before the last one's cooled. The silence between us thickens, not awkward, heavy. I look down at her loom. The thread is a deep blue, almost black. She's weaving in a strange pattern, not floral, not geometric. A tangle of lines, none of which repeat. What is it? I ask. She smiles, small. A map. To where? I don't know yet. That's the trick with maps like these. They only show you the place when you're ready to arrive. The way she says it, calm, plain, certain, unnerves me more than any spell ever could. You're not scared? I ask quietly. I was, she admits. When I heard your name had returned to the list makers. But then I remembered something. What? You're not the same boy who ran from the river. Something catches in my throat. I'm not so sure, I say. She stands then, slowly, and moves to the shelf near the window. There's a small jar of heather honey, half full, and a square of linen wrapping something. She offers them to me. For your voice, she says. It sounds tired. I shouldn't take this. But you will. And I do, because I'm not sure if refusing would prove more about me than accepting ever could. I turn to go, but she speaks once more before I reach the door. They're going to ask you to watch the children, she says, the ones who play near the well. I stop. How do you know that? She looks back at the loom, resumes weaving. Because one of them saw something he shouldn't have, and they always ask the witch hunter to make it go away. The door closes behind me without sound. Outside, the air has warmed just slightly. The mist has lifted from the lower hills, revealing more of the forest edge than I expected. I watch the trees move for a moment, thinking about the map on her loom, about paths that only appear when you're ready to walk them. Back in the village, word has already moved ahead of me. The baker's wife gives me a curt nod as I pass. The cobbler pretends to mend a boot that's already been mended twice. And there, beside the well, 3 children sit on the stones. 2 boys, 1 girl. They hush when they see me, but not from fear, from uncertainty. The kind that runs deep in children, a fear that the adult in front of them might not know what to do either. I crouch. "Tell me what you saw," I say, voice low. They exchange looks. The older boy speaks. "There was a light," he says, "inside the well." "Not a torch?" He shakes his head. "It was blue, and it danced, like a little man made of stars." My skin prickles. The girl adds, "It sang." "What did it sing?" She pauses. Then softly she hums a tune. 3 notes, rising, falling, rising again. I've heard it before, in a dream, or something close, but I don't let that show. "You told anyone else?" They nod. "The priest." "Of course. And that's why I've been summoned. Not to listen, to dismiss, to soothe the parents, to reassure them that light and song are just tricks of weather and childhood nerves, that the well holds no stars, only water. But what if that's not true? What if it never was? And more unsettling still, what if the children see more clearly than I do? The priest meets me at the threshold of the chapel, his robes damp and smelling faintly of mildew. He's younger than most I've known, though lines already crisscross his forehead like cracks in dry earth. He speaks before I do. "They're afraid," he says. "The children, the parents, even the animals seem restless." I step inside. The air feels thicker than it did yesterday, heavier. The candles struggle against a draft I can't place. I glance toward the altar. The lavender sprig is gone. "I heard they saw something," I say. "They say the well sang," he answers, voice clipped. "They say it glowed." "They say many things," he replies. "They're children. But children can speak the truth." He studies me, lips parting slightly before he catches himself. "I thought you didn't believe in superstition," he says carefully. "I believe in stories," I reply, "and in the power they hold over people." He doesn't respond. The chapel groans faintly as the wind outside presses against the stones. The glass in the windows trembles, not rattling, not loud. Just enough to remind you that even the sacred isn't sealed. The priest turns, walks toward the candle rack. He begins to trim one wick with a blade that catches the light. I spoke to the boy, the one who claimed the light was blue. He's clever, imaginative. I don't interrupt, but something unsettled me. "What?" He sets the blade down. He described the same melody I dreamed the night before. I step forward. "You dreamed it?" "Yes, the same 3 notes. Rising, falling, rising again. I thought it was just fatigue until he hummed it back to me. My heart doesn't beat faster, but something behind it moves. "Did you tell anyone?" I ask. He shakes his head. "Why?" His eyes flick up. "Because if I told them, they'd look to you. And if I fail?" He picks up the candle trimmer again. "Then they'd look to fire." The silence feels deeper after that. Outside, the bells do not ring. No one calls the hour. The village moves quietly, like people sneaking through their own lives. I walk to the well. It's older than the church, older than the village. Covered in moss, rimmed in worn stone, it sits slightly askew, like it's been nudged over the centuries by invisible hands. I crouch and peer inside. Just darkness. Then a glint. Not a reflection, a shimmer, a movement too slow to be water. I lean closer and hear it. Not a voice, not quite. A hum. 3 notes. Low, faint, pulling something deep in my memory forward like a root being tugged from the earth. Suddenly a gust whips across the green, slapping my cloak sideways. The children gasp behind me. I didn't hear them approach. The girl points. It's there again. But this time I see nothing. Only water, only shadows, only doubt. I stand slowly. My legs feel less sure than they did this morning. The girl steps forward, holding out something, a folded piece of parchment. I found this, she says, near the stones. I take it. It's stiff, coarse, but no seal. I open it. There's no ink. Nothing but faint fibers and the smell of something faintly burnt. But when my thumb brushes the corner, a spot where my skin has cracked from the cold, the blood touches the paper, and lines begin to form. Circles, spirals, like the ones beneath the bird. But these are different, more intricate, like someone was trying to draw a pattern, a system. I fold it again and tuck it into my coat. Go home, I tell the children gently, and don't come near the well again. They nod, obedient, but still watching me as if I've become part of the story now, the part where the hunter enters the woods and doesn't come back the same. I return to the tavern, not because I want to, but because I need quiet. A place to lay the paper out, a place to think. The innkeeper says nothing as I pass. Upstairs, I sit at the narrow table and set the parchment down. I light a stub of candle. The pattern is still there, red now from the trace of blood. It spirals inward. At the center, a single mark, a crescent, like a moon, or a sickle, or an eye, half closed. I trace it lightly with my fingertip. It's not just a drawing. It's a map. A map to what? To who? I don't know yet. But the scent on the paper, faint lavender, tells me one thing. It came from her. Esme. Which raises a question I can't answer. If she meant to warn me, why not speak it? And if she didn't leave this, who did? And why does my name, though never written, feel etched into every line? The paper doesn't move, but I check it 3 times anyway. Each time the lines are the same. Spirals, concentric circles, that single crescent at the core. I turn the parchment in the candlelight, looking for angles, symbols, letters, anything I might have missed. But it offers only silence. That silence starts to stretch, thin, uneasy, like the pause between a question and a lie. I slide the parchment back into my coat and step to the window. Outside, the sky is beginning to dim. Not quite twilight, but close enough that the shadows have started to stretch longer than the objects casting them. A woman carries a basket of wet clothes up the lane. A dog trails behind her, nose low to the ground. And in the distance, beyond the ridge, smoke. Not the kind from a chimney. Too dark, too thick. Rolling, not rising. I'm already pulling on my cloak before I realize what I'm doing. The path to the northern edge of the village is muddy from yesterday's frost melt. My boots slip more than once on stones now slick with moss, but I don't slow down. The wind is sharp here, colder than it should be, and it carries with it the unmistakable scent of charred wood and something else. Wool. Someone's home is burning. As I crest the hill, I see the fire fully. It's the old mill. What's left of it? The stone base remains, cracked and soot-slick, but the upper timbers have collapsed inward, glowing like the ribs of something long dead. Villagers stand at a distance, forming a hesitant ring around the wreckage. None of them move to douse the flames, because they're not here to save anything. They're here to see who burned. I push forward through the crowd. The constable is there. Who was inside? I ask, breath fogging between us. He shrugs, too slow. Hard to say. Bodies? Not whole. Something left ahead of the fire. I narrow my eyes. Someone? He doesn't answer. Instead, he gestures to a charred beam at the edge of the wreckage. Carved into the wood, clumsily but clearly, is the same crescent from the parchment. Someone wants me to see this. Someone is speaking in symbols, and I don't know the language. Not yet. I crouch near the edge of the fire, ignoring the heat. My fingers find something small, half buried in the ash. A ribbon. Red. Singed at one end. I don't need to guess. Esme was here. Whether before or after the fire, I don't know. But she left this behind. Or someone wants me to think she did. The constable watches me as I rise. His expression is unreadable, but his hands tighten slightly on the hilt of his belt knife. "I'll write this in the report," he says. "Suspected witch fire. Do you have proof?" He tilts his head. "You were here first." It takes a moment for the weight of that to settle. I'm not the one asking questions anymore. I'm the one being questioned. I turn away before my face betrays more than I intend. As I walk back through the thinning crowd, someone murmurs under their breath. Not loud, but just loud enough. "Witch hunter's gone strange," another voice answers. Maybe he's seen too much. Maybe. Or maybe I've seen too little. Back in the village square, I find the boy again, the stable lad. He's crouched beside a fence post, sketching something into the dirt with a stick. It's the same spiral, only messier, less practiced. "Where did you see that?" I ask, crouching. He doesn't look up. "In the water, after you left. It swirled like that. But then it stopped. And the light? Gone now." He finally meets my gaze. But it wasn't trying to scare me. I don't think so. Then what was it doing? He hesitates. Calling. The word hangs there, heavy and strange, like a truth spoken too early, before the world is ready for it. I look down again. He's drawn something else now. Beneath the spiral, a shape like a hand. Open. Palm up. It's the kind of thing a child draws without knowing why. And yet, somehow, it feels like a question or a warning. That night, I dream of fire, but not like before. This fire doesn't burn, it whispers, it sings the three notes, rising, falling, rising again, and somewhere, behind the smoke and shadow, Esme's voice calls to me. Not in fear, not in anger, but with something far more dangerous. Clarity. When I wake, my hands smell of ash, and my fingers are curled like I've been holding something I can't remember letting go. The dawn comes gray and slow, slipping into the world like it's unsure of its place. No birds, no bells, just the wet hush of dew gathering on thatch and stone, and the soft creak of timber settling into itself. I rise before the rest of the village, not out of duty, out of unrest. There's something wrong in my chest. Not pain, not fear. A hollow, like I've left something important behind without realizing it. Like a lantern unlit, but already warm to the touch. I head toward the eastern fields. Not many come this way anymore. The land is fallow here. The soil turned sour years ago when the barley failed 3 seasons in a row. Nothing grows here now but weeds and superstition. And yet, there are footprints in the frost. Small ones, barefoot, leading into the long grasses and vanishing halfway down the slope. I follow them without thinking. The grass brushes my knees, damp and whispering. I hear the stream before I see it, a trickle of water running through a narrow cut in the land, shallow and clear. A line of stones crosses it, worn flat by centuries of feet, and just beyond it, a circle of stones. Not natural, placed, deliberately. 7 smooth, round rocks arranged around a hollow. The center is filled with blackened herbs, feathers, and wax, the remains of a candle, recently burned. I crouch, brushing a hand across the ash. Still warm. Someone was here last night. Maybe not long ago. And then I see it, etched into the flat stone at the north point of the circle. The crescent. Again. My fingers rest there. The groove is fresh. Whoever carved this meant for it to be found. Meant for me to find it. I rise, scanning the horizon. No figures, no movement. But a question echoes in my mind. How many signs must I see before I stop calling them coincidence? I turn back toward the village. Halfway there, I spot something else. A bird. Not a crow this time. A dove. Dead. Its body twisted unnaturally, wings outstretched like it fell mid-flight. A smear of red cuts across its chest. But not blood. Paint. A streak of crimson, thick and wet like someone pressed a thumb across its feathers. I kneel. There's something tucked beneath the body. A ribbon. White. Frayed. Tied in a knot. And something's written on it. Not in ink. In thread. Tiny, precise letters, stitched in black. You already know the answer. My breath catches. I look up. The wind moves the grass gently, but nothing else stirs. That message wasn't for a child. Not a warning for villagers. Not a trap for a passing priest. That was for me. Someone is speaking to me directly now. Through fire. Through dreams. Through bloodless birds and cryptic ribbons. And the worst part? They're not wrong. I do know the answer. Or part of it. I just don't want to say it aloud. Because if I do, everything changes. And once I question one name on the list, I have to question them all. Back in the chapel, the curate stands near the altar with his hands folded. He looks up as I enter. His expression is unreadable. I heard about the fire, he says. So did half the village, I reply. They're restless. So am I. He studies me. Then say what you've come to say. I hesitate. Then softly. Have you ever doubted? His face doesn't change, but something in his posture tightens. Every day. That surprises me. Then how do you continue? He looks at the stained glass behind me, faded saints and starbursts dulled by years of smoke and weather. I ask myself one thing, he says. Would the world be better if I stopped? And your answer? He turns back. I don't know, but I keep asking. I nod slowly. We both stand in silence for a moment. The wax on the altar candles has pooled, cooling in uneven shapes. I found something, I say at last. Symbols, messages, left for me. He raises an eyebrow. By Esme? Maybe someone else. He doesn't ask what they said. Instead, he asks, and what will you do? I don't answer, because I haven't decided. Or maybe I have, and I'm afraid of what that means. As I turn to leave, he says one last thing. There's something older than our church beneath this village. I pause in the doorway. What do you mean? He doesn't look at me. Foundations, stonework, buried chambers. They say the original chapel was built atop something else. Something even the priests don't talk about anymore. I step out into the gray light, unsure if I feel better or worse. Beneath the village, beneath the lists, beneath my feet. Something has always been waiting. And the signs aren't just appearing now. They've been here. I just wasn't ready to see them. Until now. I don't go back to my room. Instead, I walk. Not to anywhere specific, just away. Past the blacksmiths, where the forge is cold today. Past the orchard that's more tree stump than tree. Past the boundary marker carved with half-erased runes no one living remembers the meaning of. I need air. Not because it's fresh. It isn't. The cold carries soot and silence, but at least it isn't full of whispers. My fingers still itch from holding that ribbon. The words embroidered in thread, "You already know the answer," loop in my mind like a song that doesn't end. I do know. But knowing and admitting are different beasts. At the edge of the forest, where the old paths fork into forgotten trails, I find him. The shepherd. He sits on a flat stone, legs stretched out, eyes closed, face toward the pale light, like he's sunbathing in a world that forgot the sun. I recognize him from the gallows. He was there. He always is. He doesn't open his eyes when I approach, but he speaks. "You're walking differently." That stops me. Differently? Like someone who's beginning to feel the weight of his own steps. I say nothing. He lifts a hand slowly, as if brushing away dust, and gestures to the patch of earth beside him. I sit. He doesn't ask why I've come. Doesn't need to. He speaks again, soft and dry. "You know they've lied to you." I stare ahead. "About what?" He chuckles, raspy. "Don't insult either of us with the game." I wait, because I've learned that silence will always draw out the truth faster than argument. "They burned my wife," he says after a long pause. 10 winters ago. Said she hexed the miller's child. He was born wrong. Always would have been. But people need a shape for their fear. "I remember her trial," I say. "She didn't scream." "No," he nods. "She just stared at the sky, like she was trying to remember something important." "What was it?" He opens his eyes. They're clear and wet and unblinking. "She knew something." "What?" "I don't know, but I've waited 10 years to find out." I shift slightly. "You think I'll find it?" He laughs again, but there's no humor in it. "Number, I think it's already found you." A breeze stirs the leaves, dry oak rustling like brittle paper. I glance at his hands. He's carving something into the dirt with a stick, a symbol, the crescent, and something else. A second mark, not familiar. A broken circle crossed through by a jagged line. "What is that?" He doesn't answer directly. He just says, "Ask the gravedigger." He sees more than he buries. I look up sharply. "The gravedigger?" He nods once. "Go at dusk. That's when the veil thins." I open my mouth to ask how he knows that, but he's already closed his eyes again, like he's done speaking, maybe for good. I rise slowly and walk back toward the heart of the village, but not all the way in. Instead, I veer left at the crossing path, toward the little shack near the edge of the burial field, the one no one mentions unless they must. The gravedigger's home. It leans to one side like it's too tired to stand fully upright. Moss grows on the roof, and one shutter is missing. I knock. No reply. I try again, louder, still nothing. I open the door. Inside, it smells of peat smoke, damp wool, and something metallic. Not blood, not exactly, but close. There's a single chair, a table with a crooked leg, a set of worn boots, and a strange bundle wrapped in wax cloth, and a journal. I hesitate, then pick it up. The cover is soft leather, cracked with use. Inside, the pages are filled with small, careful handwriting. Observations, notes, names, dates. Each date corresponds to a burial, and each name has a symbol beside it. Some have the crescent, others the broken circle with the jagged line. I flip through quickly. The pattern isn't random. Every person accused of witchcraft has the crescent, but a handful, fewer, have both. One name catches my eye, Esme Dunroe. But something's off. She isn't marked with either symbol, just a blank space. No burial recorded, no date. I flip back to the index. Her name isn't there either, only in the body of the text, as though the author wasn't sure if she belonged, or didn't want to admit it. I close the book and tuck it into my coat. Footsteps outside. I freeze. Then a voice, low and rasped from age. "I was saving that for you." First turn. The gravedigger stands in the doorway, thin, bent, his eyes dark but not cruel. "Why?" I ask. "Because you've come to the edge." "What edge?" He tilts his head. "The one you can't walk back from." The room feels smaller suddenly, tighter. I look at him. Is she alive? He doesn't blink. "She's waiting." "Where?" He smiles. It's not kind, but it's not unkind either. Just old. In the place beneath the church, where the first stone was laid, where the bell never rings. You'll know it by the cold. 100 questions rise in me, but one crowds out all the others. Why me? His voice is almost a whisper. Because you were never meant to burn anyone. The place beneath the church. It sounds like a riddle when he says it. But the gravedigger doesn't speak in riddles. He speaks in confessions, ones that leave no comfort. I leave his shack with the journal pressed to my side and my heart doing something I don't quite recognize. It's not fear, not excitement. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff you've walked your whole life without ever realizing it was a cliff. Back in the village, the light is starting to thin again. Dusk is always earlier in this part of the year. The sun seems eager to leave, as though it knows what's coming and wants no part in it. I cross the green quickly. The chapel looms ahead, hunched under the weight of its own history. The curate isn't inside when I enter. Good. I step quietly, not because I need to, but because the space demands it. The air is thicker than usual, and colder too, like the stone is sweating from something deeper underground. I circle behind the altar. There's a narrow set of stairs here. Few remember them. Fewer speak of them. They were boarded up once, long ago, said to lead nowhere but rot and crumbling roots. But the boards are gone now. I don't remember when that happened. Perhaps they were never there. The steps spiral down, uneven and damp, the walls narrowing as I descend. It smells of limestone and old wax, and something else. Lavender. Faint, but unmistakable. I know that scent now. It trails her like a memory. At the bottom of the stairs is a door. Iron-bound, ancient, fitted into stone so old it doesn't look like part of the chapel anymore. I push. It groans and opens. Inside is darkness. Not black. Heavy. Like velvet soaked in ink. My candle flares as I step in. Its light small and uncertain. The room is circular, low-ceilinged and covered in carvings. Not scripture, not symbols I recognize. Lines, spirals, crescent marks. Some burned into the stone. Others painted in what looks like rust, but smells like iron. A figure stands at the far end. I nearly drop the candle, but she doesn't move. She's not cloaked in shadow. She is shadow, wrapped in it, standing still as the statues in the church above, yet somehow more alive. I step closer, and she speaks. Not loudly, not urgently, just clearly. You came. Her voice is Esme's, older, quieter, but still hers. You left the message, I say. She inclines her head. The ribbon? She nods again. Why not speak to me directly? I needed you to arrive on your own. Why? Because a truth handed to you will burn your hands, but one uncovered becomes your spine. That answer chills me more than the room. What is this place? She looks around, then back at me. The beginning. Of what? Of everything that's gone wrong. My breath hitches. She steps forward. The light catches her face for the first time. She looks the same, but not. Like someone wearing her own reflection. "I didn't curse anyone," she says. "Not the cattle, not the children, not the baker's oven or the smith's hands. But that doesn't matter, does it?" "I never thought you did. Didn't you?" That lands harder than I want it to. Because if I'm honest, truly honest, there was a part of me that always wondered. And wondering is sometimes worse than believing. She doesn't press it. Instead, she turns toward the wall and traces one of the spirals with her finger. They were drawn by the first ones, the ones who lived here before the village, before the stones, before the lists. Who were they? Keepers, she says, of memory, of pain, of things buried too deep to rot properly. And now? Now they sleep. And this place? A wound. Her finger stops on the crescent. "You've seen this before," she says. "Yes." "In dreams?" "And fire." She nods. "It's not a symbol. It's a question." "What question?" She looks at me fully now. Where does the line between justice and fear vanish? I want to answer, but I can't. Not honestly. Because maybe it's not a line at all. Maybe it's a circle, like the ones drawn in salt and soot. Endless, unbroken, spinning until you forget where it started. "Why did you bring me here?" I ask. "To give you the choice." "What choice?" "Whether to continue or to end it." I stare at her. "What would that look like?" Her voice lowers. "Stopping the fire, breaking the list, tearing the seal, and accepting what you already know. That the witches aren't witches? That the hunters are lost." That hits harder than anything she said, because I feel it in my bones, in my breath, in the aching quiet of my thoughts. What happens if I walk away? She steps back into the shadows. Then the fire continues, without you, with someone worse. And if I stay, you'll burn with it. I close my eyes. The candle flickers, and the spiral beneath our feet glows faintly. For a moment, I feel it spinning, not around me, through me. And in that spinning, I hear a voice. Not hers, mine, but from long ago, crying by the river. The lamb already gone, the guilt already seated. Maybe I was always meant to arrive here. Maybe this spiral has always been mine. I don't remember walking back up the stairs. I must have. I'm not still down there. But the moments between her final words and my arrival in the open air are a blur. Muddy and silent. Like waking from a fever dream where everything was too real to be dreamt. I'm standing behind the chapel now, beneath a sky the color of wet slate. My candle is out, but the warmth lingers at my fingertips like a memory that won't cool. The stone feels different underfoot, like it knows I've seen something. Or perhaps I've simply changed the way I stand on it. I don't go back into the church. I don't need more silence. I need sound. So I walk, aimless again, but this time with too much in my head to be truly lost. The village feels quieter than before. Not because fewer people are moving, but because they're watching now. I feel their eyes. Not angry. Not even afraid. Just curious. They can smell it. The shift. The hesitation in my step. The questions hanging around me like fog. Someone spits near the well as I pass. Not at me, just in proximity. A statement. A gesture. I let it pass. The tavern door creaks open before I reach it. The innkeeper doesn't say anything, just nods at me once, slow and heavy, as though he's not sure if he should still be nodding at all. I climb the stairs and lock the door behind me. The room is unchanged. A basin of water, a cot with a straw-stuffed pillow, the warped table where I'd laid out the ribbon. but everything feels changed. As if now the furniture is just waiting for the next version of me to return. I pull out the journal from the gravedigger. It's heavier now, too. Or maybe my hands have simply grown tired of carrying the weight of unspoken truths. I flip again to Esme's name. Still blank. But as I stare at the space beside it, a thought roots itself firmly in my mind. The dead don't need their names written down. The forgotten do. There's a knock at the door. Not sharp, not timid, deliberate. I rise, open it. It's the blacksmith. He's a large man, soot-streaked and always smelling of coal and iron. But today he looks worn, like someone's been hammering him instead of the other way around. He holds something wrapped in cloth. "This was meant for you," he says. He hands it to me and turns before I can ask more. No explanation, just a package. I close the door, sit, unwrap it. Inside is a piece of metal, curved, blackened, carved, the crescent again. But this one isn't flat. It's part of something larger. I lift it fully and realize it's a piece of the old gallows, a fragment of the beam that once bore the weight of those accused. It's been reforged, bent into a half moon, and inscribed on its surface, almost too fine to see, are words. We build the fire. We wear the ash. I set it down carefully. The edges are smooth. Not a weapon. A symbol. A confession, maybe. Or a warning. The message is clear. The tools of judgment can be reshaped, but the memory never cools completely. As I sit with it, the sky outside dims further. Dusk now, proper. The kind of twilight where lanterns flicker before anyone thinks to light them, and shadows stretch their fingers as far as they can reach. I light a candle, place the iron crescent beside it, and then I speak aloud, to no one in particular. What if I stop? The flame doesn't answer, but the question hangs heavy. What happens when the witch hunter steps away? What does the village become without a figure to point the finger, seal the parchment, light the pyre? Does it collapse, or does it begin to heal? There's no guide for this, no scripture, no training, only instinct. And instinct is messy. The journal whispers from where it lies half open on the table. I flip again. Randomly. A new name. One I don't recognize? Dara Lynn. Beside it, the crescent and the broken circle. She died 5 years ago, accused of poisoning a newborn. The page notes, body never recovered. I stare at it, and then, without knowing why, I flip again. The boy, the stable hand, his mother's name, Marin. No symbols beside her name, but a note. Left quietly during winter of the long hunger, returned years later. Accused once, acquitted. I hadn't known that. Hadn't known she was ever accused. The boy never spoke of it. And yet, he saw the spiral. He saw the light. He dreamed the melody. He's part of this. Somehow. The thread is winding tighter now, pulling everything together. Esme, the children, the gravedigger, the symbols, the whispers in the well, the fire that would not burn, the bird without blood, and always, always the crescent. It's not a symbol of them. It's a mirror of us, of what we become when we stop asking questions and start believing in certainty, when fear becomes routine and doubt becomes heresy. I stare into the candlelight until my eyes blur, until the edges of the iron crescent soften. And in the wavering glow, for just a moment, I see my own face reflected in the curve, and I don't recognize it. It's nearly midnight when I leave the tavern. The streets are quiet, but not empty. Lanterns flicker behind drawn curtains. A dog barks once, then is silenced by a shushing hand. The village feels like it's holding its breath, not in fear, but in anticipation. They know something is coming. They just don't know what. Neither do I. But my feet move on their own, leading me not to the well, not to the church, not even to the hills. They take me to the edge of the forest, to the weaver's path. It's narrower than I remember. Thornier. The branches above have knit themselves tighter, like the trees are trying to keep secrets under their bark. The moonlight doesn't reach far in, but the air is strangely warm here, like the woods are exhaling. I carry no lantern, only the journal, the crescent of forged iron tucked into my coat, and a question that's been growing inside me like rot. If we all fear the same things, why do we burn different people? I find Esme by the standing stone. She's not startled. She doesn't ask how I found her. She just says, "It's time." For what? For the rest of it. She turns, motioning for me to follow, and we walk through the trees in silence. They part for her. I swear they do. Their limbs ease out of the way with no sound, as if they recognize her or obey her. We reach a hollow. At its center is a pool of water, perfectly still, reflecting nothing, not even the moon above. She kneels by it and gestures for me to do the same. I do. "This is where they brought me," she says. "Before the fire. Before the name they accused you," I say. "But didn't kill you. They meant to, but the water didn't let them." I look at the pool. It spoke? "No," she says. "It listened." And then she takes my hand. Her skin is warm, steady. She presses something into my palm, a small stone, smooth and cool. The same crescent is etched into it. "They brought me here thinking this place would kill me," she says. "It didn't." Why? Because I didn't come to burn. I came to remember. The stone in my palm vibrates slightly, not from motion, from meaning. And then she whispers, "Ask it." I close my eyes and ask, not aloud, not with words, just with everything inside me that is bent, cracked, or frayed since the first time I signed my name on a death order. And the water answers, not with a voice, but with memory. I see the first gallows, not mine, older, built by hands too eager to punish. I see villagers lighting torches and whispering the same prayers we still say. I see a girl, not Esme, younger, being dragged. I see the faces of the ones watching, some smiling, some crying, some indifferent. I see my own face among them, but younger, smiling. Not because I believed, because I wanted to belong. And then the memory changes. The water ripples, and I see a fire that never starts. I see villagers walking away, refusing to accuse, refusing to testify, refusing to name their neighbors with fear. And in that world, I never become the hunter, because there is no hunt. I open my eyes. Esme is still beside me, but the hollow is different now, brighter, like the darkness is no longer hiding anything. "What did it show you?" she asks. Who I was. And? I don't want to be him anymore. She nods, like she knew I'd say that. Then she stands and says something I don't expect. "Then you have to return." My mouth goes dry. "To the trials?" "Yes, but to stop them." A beat. From within. The wind moves softly through the branches above, and I suddenly understand what she's saying. If I walk away now, leave the village, vanish into the woods, they'll just find someone else. Another hunter, another seal stamper, another name reader. But if I stay with new eyes, I can unwrite the list. Not all at once, not loudly, but carefully, like removing poison drop by drop. "You trust me to do that?" I ask. "No," she says softly, "but the water does." We walk back together in silence. As we reach the edge of the woods, she stops. "One more thing," she says, First turn, and she leans in close, her voice low, steady. There's a child on tomorrow's list. She's 7. She speaks to shadows. They say she calls them by name. I stare at her. You have to stop it, Esme says. I will. Even if it costs you everything? I nod, because I already know the answer. And this time, I say it aloud. I was never meant to burn anyone. The bell tolls too early the next morning. It always does when there's a trial. But today, the sound carries differently. It doesn't ring like judgment. It rings like warning. Like the metal has finally realized what it's been asked to do all these years. I rise slowly, as if waking inside someone else's body. My limbs feel heavy. Not with sleep, but with decision. A kind of knowing that settles into the bones and makes you feel older than you are. Outside, the village moves like it always does on trial days, brisk and silent. Women carrying water with eyes to the ground. Men pretending their hands aren't shaking as they haul wood for the pyre. Children kept inside, their games paused, their laughter held hostage. I make my way to the church. The parchment is waiting on the altar. As always, I break the seal. As always, I unroll the page, and there it is. Her name, Mara, 7 winters old, suspected of shadow speech. I stare at it so long that the letters begin to blur, swimming on the page like ink dropped into water. A child. A child. They want me to burn a child. My fingers curl around the edges of the parchment. I feel something in my chest. Not rage, not disbelief. Resolve. Because this is the line. Not the first one I've crossed, but the one I can't uncross. The one where silence becomes complicity. I walk out of the church and straight to the constable's post. He's there, sharpening a blade that has never once seen justice. You've seen the list? He asks without looking up. I have. You'll confirm it then? No. He pauses, looks up slowly. What? I said no. He stands now, frowning. This is your role. Not anymore. Refusing to confirm is a refusal to protect the village. Protect them from what? A child who whispers to shadows? His hand moves to the blade. I don't flinch. Be careful, he says, voice low. No, I say. You be careful, because the list is only as strong as the one who seals it. And I'm done sealing lies. He stares at me, jaw tight. Then he says something meant to wound. You're forgetting your place. And I say something that surprises even me. I've remembered it. I walk away, not with certainty, but with direction. I find the girl in her home, seated on the floor with a wooden doll in one hand and a candle stub in the other. Her mother is pale with fear. Her father stands between us, body tense. I'm not here to take her, I say. Then why are you here? The father asks, his voice trembling with a fury born of helplessness. To stop anyone else from doing it. The girl looks up at me, and for a moment, I see her eyes flick to the shadow behind me, and smile. Not a wicked smile, a knowing one, like she sees something I can't. She hums softly, 3 notes, rising, falling, rising again. I shiver. Do you know what that is? I ask her. She nods. Where did you learn it? She points to the corner of the room. No one's there. Who taught you? She whispers. They've always been here. The mother sobs, covering her mouth with both hands. The father shakes his head. We didn't teach her this. We didn't. I know, I say gently. And you don't have to explain anything. Outside, footsteps approach. Not fast, not yet, but enough to rattle the shutters. The constable is coming. Maybe others too. I kneel beside the girl. What's in the shadow? She tilts her head. Someone who remembers. Remembers what? She shrugs. The time before the fires. I take her hand. It's warm. She's real. Alive. Not a threat. Just a child who hears more than most. I turn to the parents. You have to leave. Now go to the North Woods. There's a weaver's hut past the old orchard. She'll keep you safe. Esme? The mother whispers. I nod. She's alive? Yes. The father hesitates only a second, then lifts the child gently. I hand him the journal. Page 17, I say. It'll show you who to trust. He nods. The mother grips my hand, lips trembling. You won't come with us? I shake my head. Not yet. They slip out the back door, into the mist, and then I wait. For the knock, for the consequence, for the reckoning. It comes 10 minutes later. The constable pushes the door open with the flat of his palm, eyes scanning the room. They're gone. I nod. You let them escape? No, I say. I let them survive. He stares at me, and for a moment I think he's going to strike me. But then he says, You'll hang for this. And I say, Maybe. He steps back, leaves without another word, because he knows he'd have to bring the village with him. And the village is beginning to wonder. Later that night, I light the iron crescent and place it in the window. A signal, a declaration, not of guilt, but of refusal. And in the woods beyond the hill, somewhere between dream and darkness, a girl hums to the shadows, and they hum back. It rains through the night. Not hard, just steady. A thin, cold drizzle that soaks everything but doesn't wash anything clean. The kind of rain that reminds you the earth doesn't forgive. It just forgets slowly. I don't sleep. I sit by the window, watching the iron crescent dim as the candle beneath it burns low. Below the street glistens, empty. But I know I'm not alone. They're watching me now. Not just the constable, the people, the ones who once lowered their eyes, who crossed themselves as I passed, who offered me bread with trembling hands and waited for me to vanish again. They've seen me hesitate. They've seen me refuse. That's more dangerous than fire. Because doubt, once shown, spreads like wet smoke. I rise before dawn and make my way toward the burial ground. The journal weighs heavy in my coat. Heavier now that I know what's inside. Not just names, not just symbols, but a record of everything we've chosen to forget. The gravedigger meets me by the outer fence. He doesn't ask why I'm here. He just nods once and says, "Follow me." We walk among the markers. Most are simple stones. Some are marked with only a scratched initial, others with nothing at all. Memory, it seems, is selective even in death. He stops at a patch of bare earth. No marker, no name, just grass that won't grow right. She was buried here? I ask. He nods. No coffin. Just cloth. The way they do with those they want the earth to take quickly. Who? Darlene. The name from the journal. The one marked with both the crescent and the broken circle. She was the first, he says. First to carry the second mark. The one that means more than they wanted to admit. I kneel by the earth. The grass is cold, but dry. Odd considering the rain. What does it mean? I ask. He hesitates. Then, it means she knew. Knew what? That the fire was never meant for witches. I look up. He's not smiling, not frowning, just tired. She tried to tell them, left signs, drew maps, passed messages, but they called it madness. Said her songs were curses, said her touch made bread rise wrong and water spoil. Were they wrong? He shrugs. Does it matter? I don't answer. Because I know what he means. Truth has never mattered in these trials. Only fear. Only who speaks first. Only who speaks loudest. She left behind a charm, he says, reaching into his coat. He hands me a small bundle wrapped in wool. Inside is a circle of bark, woven with strands of dried grass and hair. At its center, the broken circle stitched in thread the color of blood. She called it her tether, he says. Said it would pull her memory back if anyone ever tried to bury her too deep. I trace the thread lightly. It's warm to the touch, alive somehow. Why are you giving it to me? I ask. Because you're the only one still asking. And then he says something I won't forget. Justice isn't in the fire. It's in the pause before we strike the flint. I leave the burial ground as the sun begins to rise, pale and reluctant behind a veil of mist. The village is stirring, but something's changed. People watch me openly now, not with fear, with conflict. The kind that curls in the gut when the story you've always told yourself begins to tear at the seams. At the chapel steps, the curate waits. He looks at me, then at the bundle in my hands. You found it. I did. And now? I don't answer right away. I step past him, into the church. It feels darker than usual. Not evil, just hollow. The kind of dark that waits for something to fill it. I place the charm on the altar, not as an offering, as a confrontation. This belongs here, I say. He nods slowly, then lights the candle beside it. The flame catches quickly. Strong, too strong. It flares, then settles into a blue core. I blink. The charm hasn't moved, but something in the room has shifted. The floor beneath my boots feels warmer, the air denser, like the chapel is breathing. He sees it too. Do you feel that? He asks. Yes. What is it? Memory, I whisper. Coming back. That evening, no trial is held. No bell is rung. The constable comes to my room with the new parchment, expecting me to seal it. He leaves with the seal untouched. No names confirmed. No confessions forged. He says nothing, but his hand lingers on his belt longer than it needs to. He knows the tide is turning, and tides are dangerous things. By nightfall, word has spread. Not a fire, but a silence. A kind that grows, and waits, and carries weight. I place the charm in my coat pocket. It pulses faintly against my ribs. A heartbeat I don't recognize, but one I'm starting to trust. And as I drift to sleep, finally, fitfully, I hear a whisper behind my eyes. There was one more door. One I never opened. The dream comes again. Not the fire this time. Not the gallows or the spirals or the girl humming to shadows. This one is quieter. I'm standing in a stone hallway lit by torches that don't flicker. The air is still, too still. Like I've entered a breath that's waiting to be exhaled. There's a door at the end of the passage. Wood, reinforced with black iron bands. Familiar. I've passed it in dreams before, but I've never touched it. Until now. I reach out. My fingers close around the iron ring. Cold, smooth, and somehow alive. The moment I pull, I wake. Heart pounding. Candle gone. Darkness thick. No noise. Just the echo of that unopened door still throbbing behind my eyes. Morning is slow to arrive. The sky stays gray long after it should have softened. Rain hangs in the air like it's changed its mind. I sit at the table with the charm still pressed to my chest beneath the fabric. It hasn't stopped pulsing. The journal lies open beside a cup of cooling broth I haven't touched. I'm rereading a page that caught my eye last night, just before sleep claimed me. Not a name, a drawing, rough and faint. A circle within a circle, with a jagged line splitting both. Not the crescent, not the spiral. Something else. Something I now realize matches the carving on the inside of that iron-banded door from my dream. The door I've never opened. The one that's real. Not metaphor, not memory. The one in the crypt beneath the chapel. The true crypt. I've never descended that far. Not because I was told not to, but because it didn't exist. At least not in any records. It isn't drawn on the chapel blueprints. The stone at the base of the stairs is supposed to be solid, sealed, ancient. But Esme said it once. There's always something beneath the first stone. So I go. Not with caution, but with purpose. The chapel is empty when I arrive. The curate is gone. No one stops me. I move behind the altar and descend the same narrow stair that led me to Esme's truth. At the base, I turn left instead of right. And there, behind the waxy black of centuries-old stone, is the thing I didn't want to see. A door. Exactly as I dreamt it. Thick wood, iron bands, and at its center, that symbol. The broken double circle, split like a wound that never healed. My fingers touch the iron ring. This time it doesn't chill me. It feels warm, familiar, like the curve of a palm I've held before. I pull, and the door opens without sound. Beyond it, a room carved from the bones of the earth. Natural stone walls, uneven and rough, lit only by the light I carry. My candle's flame stretches upward, straining. The space is neither large nor small, just enough to hold the past. In the center, a stone basin, shallow, empty, dry. But the rim is carved with words, not Latin, not scripture, older. The letters twist in strange loops and tails, but I can almost read them. Almost. And then I do. What is buried remembers who buried it. I step closer. There are bones in the basin, not many, child-sized, arranged with care, not as a threat, as a warning. The cloth around them is intact, red, embroidered with little suns, Esme's scarf, number not hers. It's older than that. I lift the corner of the cloth and find a mark stitched in gold. D.L. Dara Lynn, the first, the forgotten, the origin. This isn't a grave. It's an accusation, a message sent forward in time, waiting for someone willing to receive it. I kneel beside the basin, unsure what to feel. Grief? Yes. Guilt? Absolutely. But something more. Understanding. Not the comfortable kind. The terrible kind. The kind that makes the ground feel unsteady and the past feel revised. Because I realize now, the fires didn't start because of fear. They started because of regret. Because someone tried to undo what they'd done too late. Because someone needed to rewrite the ending of a story that had begun with a child's scream in the dark and a scarf too bright to ignore. And they failed. So they buried her and burned everyone who reminded them. The journal falls open in my lap. I hadn't brought it out. It opened on its own. To a page I don't remember writing, but the handwriting is mine. It says, "You opened the door. Now leave it open. Let the wind pass through. Let memory return." I trace the ink, still wet. Impossible. And yet, the candle sputters. I rise, backing away slowly. The door behind me remains open. I do not close it. I leave it as it is, because some wounds must breathe to heal. When I return to the chapel above, the curate stands at the altar, face pale. "You went below," he says. I nod. "And?" "She was there." "Dara?" "Yes." His hands tremble. "I thought she was a story." "She was," I say, "until we made her real by pretending she wasn't." He doesn't ask for more. He simply sits in the front pew, head in hands, and begins to pray. Not to the God in the steeple, to the one beneath the stone. The wind is wrong today. It doesn't whistle or wail. It asks. moves through the village like it's hunting for answers we haven't yet shaped into questions. Windows rattle, but no one dares fasten the shutters. Doors creak open just enough to see out, but no one steps through. Something's changed. They feel it too. Not in words, but in the stiffness of their movements. The way conversations die as I pass. Not out of fear, at least not entirely. It's something closer to recognition, as if the story they've told themselves about me is no longer fitting quite right. I walk the green without my seal, without my list, without the iron of authority clanking at my side, and no one stops me. The constable isn't in his post. The trial platform hasn't been swept. The bell hangs silent. It's the first time I've seen the gallows without someone standing beneath it. It looks awkward now, out of place, as if the land has grown tired of lending it space. I step closer. There's something at its base, a bundle, not a body. A child's cloak, soaked in rain. No blood, no note, just left there, like someone almost followed through and then stopped. My heart tightens. Did I stop it? Or did they? Or did the story simply pause? I don't know. But the pause matters. That pause means someone remembered. That fire is not inevitable. That a hand raised can also be lowered. I pick up the cloak and carry it to the chapel. The curate is still there, seated where I left him, though now his collar is undone and his hair falls into his eyes like he's aged a decade overnight. He doesn't speak as I enter. I lay the cloak on the altar. This was left by the gallows, I say. He looks at it, just looks, then slowly rises and folds it carefully, tenderly, as if it belonged to his own child. What's happening? He finally asks. I think for a moment before answering. The village is remembering. He lets out a breath, slow and jagged. I keep dreaming of Dara, he whispers, of her eyes, but I never knew her. She died before I arrived. That doesn't mean she didn't know you. He looks at me sharply. I nod. She knew all of us, knew we'd forget. That's why she left the signs. She was only a child. Children remember differently. He says nothing after that, but he doesn't argue. That afternoon, I do something no witch hunter has ever done. I go door to door, not to accuse, to listen. Some don't open, but many do. A girl tells me about the dream she's had every night since the mill fire. A dream where she walks through smoke, but doesn't cough. Where someone holds her hand, but never speaks. An old man shows me a bundle of dried herbs his wife hid in the walls before she died, labeled in a language he doesn't understand. A boy presses a rock into my hand. It hums when I sleep, he says. I hold it and feel something. I take nothing from them, only stories, only pieces, only truths that never made it to the parchment. By evening, I have a bag full of strange objects, meaningless to most, sacred to those who kept them. I place them all in a circle at the foot of the gallows, one by one, a ribbon, a bone comb, a feather, the humming stone, the scarf, the charm, and in the center, I lay my hunter's seal, the iron stamp that once marked the difference between living and burned. I leave it there. I walk away. I don't look back. That night, someone knocks at my door. I open it slowly. It's the blacksmith. No words, just his broad hand, opening to reveal a piece of metal, melted from the platform, the gallows, recast. He places it in my hand. It's rough, unfinished, still warm, but I can see what it's becoming. A bell, small, handheld, forged not to summon judgment, but to warn, to mark memory, not punishment. He says nothing, just nods once, and leaves, and I am left with the first sound of a new calling. Not a hunter, Not a witness, not even a judge. Just a keeper of what was buried, of what must never be forgotten again. And as I place the bell on the windowsill, it chimes once, soft, low, like a whisper finally spoken aloud after centuries of silence. The bell doesn't ring again. Not that night. Not the next. It sits quiet on the windowsill, catching light in its uneven surface, holding the warmth of something freshly forged and waiting. It's not a warning anymore. It's a promise. Outside, the village breathes in strange new rhythms. A trial has not been called in 2 days. No lists delivered. No names spoken over the altar with trembling certainty. For the first time in memory, the firewood behind the chapel remains stacked and untouched. That morning, I hear the sound of children playing again. Not laughter, not yet, but feet running, a ball bouncing, a rhythm returning to the dust. It almost makes me cry. Not because it's joyful, but because it's unfamiliar. Because I realize how long it's been since the village sounded alive. I return to the journal. Its pages are more than ink now. They're testimony. Each name I've sealed once was a story I never heard, a voice I never asked to speak. I open to the last entry. There's no name written, just a line, scrawled at an angle across the page. There is still one voice you haven't listened to. My breath stops. I read it again. The ink is mine, but I don't remember writing it. Or maybe I do, and I've simply buried the memory the way we bury the dead, with formality, with purpose, with hope that it won't rise again. I sit with the line for hours, until dusk turns the windows amber and the breeze smells like turning earth and pine sap. And then I know. The voice I haven't listened to is mine. Not the voice I use when I call the accused forward. Not the voice that repeats the rites, the other one. The one I silenced when I first accepted the seal. When I first believed that knowing the law was the same as being just. I rise. I leave the house with nothing in my hands. No parchment, no coat, no badge. Only myself. The villagers watch me pass. Some nod, some don't. But no one looks away, and no one hides. I walk to the square, to the center, to the gallows. It's still there, though smaller now. Not in size, but in presence, as if it knows it has lost its power. I climb the steps, for the first time. I've stood beside it, behind it, before it, but never on it. Never as the one being seen. The wood creaks beneath me. The evening is cool and windless. I stand in silence, until I know they're all watching, until I feel their breath held tight in their chests. Then I speak, not loudly, but clearly. I was wrong. It echoes. I don't raise my voice. I don't offer justification, only truth. I lit fires when I should have asked questions. I sealed names I never bothered to learn. I watched smoke rise and called it righteousness. A murmur, a shift, but no one walks away. So I go on. I stand here now, not as a hunter, not even as a man of this village, but as someone who finally understands what this place needs. Not fear, not order. I pause, look out at their faces. Even the constable is there, expression unreadable, but he doesn't move to stop me. What we need is memory. I reach into my pocket, pull out the bell, hold it high. This will ring at dusk each night, not to summon judgment, not to mark guilt, but to remember. I place it on the hook once meant for a noose. It swings slightly in the still air. You may think I've lost my purpose, I say, stepping down from the platform. But the truth is, I've only just found it. I leave the square without applause, without blessing, but with silence. The good kind. The kind that says, "We heard you. We don't know what it means yet, but we're listening." That night, the bell rings again. Not by my hand. I'm not sure whose, but its tone is clear. Not somber, not hollow. Just steady. Like something remembering its shape after being bent too long. And in that sound, I hear it at last. The voice I buried, and the others rising to meet it. By morning, the gallows are gone. No one saw who dismantled it. The wood vanished quietly, as though it had never been there. In its place is a bare patch of earth, damp from dew and marked only by the shallow footprints of someone who stood there and chose not to speak. The bell remains, still hanging on the iron hook once meant for rope, swaying slightly in the breeze, catching the light and holding it. I stand in the square, watching the sun rise behind it. The light is soft and gold, like something exhaled after a long-held breath. The villagers begin to gather, slowly, cautiously. No trial, no list, no fear, only questions. And the questions are finally being asked aloud. "What do we do now?" the baker murmurs to his wife. "Who decides what is evil?" asks the miller's daughter, who once testified against her own aunt. "Was it ever real?" someone whispers. "Any of it?" And from somewhere nearby, "What if it was never about witches at all?" I let them speak. I don't try to answer, because the answers have never come from the seal or the flame or the parchment. They come from this: the murmuring, the wondering, the remembering. Later that day, I return to the woods. I don't go alone. The children come too. The ones who heard the melody in the well. The ones who traced spirals in the dirt and whispered names no one taught them. They walk with me without question, their feet finding the path as if it was drawn into them before they were born. We arrive at the old weaver's hut. Esme is waiting on the step, her hands wrapped around a bowl of something steaming and herbal. She nods once. No smile, but her eyes soften when she sees the children. "I knew they'd find their way here," she says. "Children always do. The woods remember them." "They're starting to remember back," I reply. She looks at me then, truly looks, and says, "So are you." We sit inside by the fire while the children collect twigs and small stones from the glade. They line them up in patterns I don't understand. Circles, X's, crescent arcs. Esme watches them, then hands me a folded piece of cloth. I open it. It's the scarf, the original one. Red, embroidered with tiny suns. But now, there's something new stitched into the corner. A line of thread in a color I've never seen before. Gray-blue, like stormlight. A spiral, small, delicate, and at the center, a dot. "You stitched this?" I ask. "No," she says. "The girl did, the one who hums." I pause. "She saw this in a dream?" "She sang it into her fingers," Esme replies. "She said it would help you remember your name." I blink. "What name?" She tilts her head, and for a moment I feel like I'm being weighed. "You've never spoken it, have you?" she says softly. "Never once since your first trial." I think back. She's right. No one ever asked me for it. No one ever used it. I became a role, a seal, a shadow in black, even to myself. "You don't need to say it," she adds gently, "but you should hear it again." I close my eyes, and there, in the fire's crackle, in the wind curling against the window, in the hush of children dreaming of things older than language, I hear it. A voice from long ago. Not hers, not Dara's, not mine as I am now, but me. The boy who wept by the river, the one who tried to save the lamb, the one who once believed that magic was just another word for possibility. That boy speaks my name, and I remember it. Not as a weapon, not as a shield, but as a thread. Worn, soft, unbroken. I open my eyes. Esme is watching me. "You remember?" she says. I nod. The scarf is still in my lap. I fold it again, gently, like a letter I'm not quite ready to send. "Can I stay here?" I ask. "Not for long," she says. "Why?" "Because the village still needs you." I have no authority. Exactly. She places her hand on my wrist. "Now they can hear you." When I return, the bell rings before I reach the square. Not a warning, a welcome. A small boy sits beneath it, humming the same 3 notes. Rising, falling, rising again. And this time, I hum them back. It takes them time to come. The ones who never came before. The quiet ones. The ones who stood at the edges of trial crowds. Eyes lowered, lips tight. Hands clenched so tightly, their knuckles shone like bone through skin. The ones who carried guilt not for what they did, but for what they watched. They come now, one by one. They come to the place where the gallows once stood, where the bell now rings. No names are called, no accusations are made. They come not to speak, but to listen and to remember. The first is the widow who once pointed at a girl who sang to her goats. "I only said her name," she tells me, eyes filled with rain that hasn't fallen. "But it was enough, wasn't it?" I don't answer. I let the silence do what it was always meant to. Hold what we're afraid to say out loud. Then a boy, now grown, who once ran errands for the constable. "I brought the rope," he says. "Not every time. Just once." His voice trembles. I didn't know it was her they were tying. I nod, and he leaves lighter than he arrived. Then the priest's apprentice, the one who used to set out the incense for trials. He kneels, not before the altar, but beneath the bell. Says nothing. Stays for an hour. Then rises and walks away without ever turning around. It becomes a rhythm. Each day, someone new. Each day, a fragment returns. A phrase, a name, a moment, a mark. The bell never rings twice the same way. I think it's listening, too. One night, I find a bundle on my doorstep, wrapped in linen, bound with twine. Inside, a pair of worn shoes, a bone comb, a child's drawing of a woman with a crooked smile and hair made of birds. On the back, Mara still hums. Thank you, I place it with the other offerings. We have no shrine, only a long wooden bench beside the square, where the sun hits around midday. We call it the remembering place. No one built it. It just appeared. A gift, I think, from the carpenter who hasn't spoken since his sister's trial. He built it and said nothing. Because now the saying nothing feels different. It doesn't protect the fire anymore. It honors the ash. I find myself sitting there most afternoons. People come, sit beside me, or not. Sometimes they speak. Sometimes they leave behind something small. A button, a page torn from a hymn book, a scarf. One day, I find the stable boy there, the one who saw the light in the well. He's older now, taller, but his eyes haven't changed. He holds something in his hands. "I made this," he says, offering it to me. It's a whistle, carved from a reed, rough but well-tuned. "For the children," he adds, "in case they feel afraid or forgotten." I take it, raise it to my lips, blow once. The sound is soft, not sharp, a tone that doesn't demand attention, but invites it. He grins. "I thought you might like it better than shouting." I laugh. The kind of laugh that's unfamiliar and full of warmth. The kind I didn't think I could still make. That evening, the sky turns violet. A girl lays a basket of heather blossoms beneath the bell. Another ties a feather to the iron hook. They say nothing. But their silence is clear. They are reclaiming this space, not for trials, for truth. Later, Esme visits the square. She walks with no fear. She hums as she moves through the stones. And for the first time since I returned, the constable steps forward, not with a weapon, not with accusation, with a bow. She does not return it. She only looks him in the eye and says, "Let it stay buried now." He nods and walks away. He will leave by morning. He knows this place is no longer his. I ask Esme later what she meant. She simply says, "Some names don't need to rise again. Let them rest." That night, the bell rings once, then twice, then not again. And in the pause between each chime, I hear it clearly. A girl's laughter. Not nervous, not hidden. Just alive. The first storm in weeks rolls over the moors at dawn. Not violent, just insistent. A steady rain with wind that pulls at cloaks and leans hard against shutters. The kind of weather that used to mean huddling inside, waiting for a name to be whispered over bread and broth, used to mean worry, accusation, the tightening of eyes in candlelight, but not today. Today, I walk the village in it, without fear. The rain pools in the square where the gallows once stood. Mud gathers near the roots of the remembering bench. The bell sways gently, not chiming, just moving. A silent gesture, like a nod between old friends. A woman joins me there. I don't know her name. She wears a hood the color of faded moss and carries a tin lantern with a cracked pane. She doesn't speak at first, just watches the water gather in the cracks of the stone path. Then she says, "I had a daughter." I don't interrupt. She talked in her sleep. Always had. Nonsense, mostly. But when she was 10, she started saying things that hadn't happened yet. Told me a storm was coming. Told me a calf would be stillborn. Told me the shepherd's wife was going to bleed before the harvest moon. A pause. All three were true. I nod gently. She continues. They came for her in the night. I didn't stop them. She finally turns to me. Her eyes are so tired they look soft, like worn cloth. "I didn't believe she was a witch," she says. "I believed she was a child." And then, even softer, "But I also believed the others more." The sentence breaks something in me. Not because it's cruel, because it's honest. She reaches into her lantern and removes something small. A doll's eye. Porcelain. Glinting. Pale blue. She carried this when they took her. She sets it on the bench. Now it belongs here. She leaves without another word. The doll's eye stares at nothing. I leave it there. It belongs now to the collective memory, to the slow reckoning that is beginning to shape this place anew. By evening, the storm begins to ease. I walk toward the edge of the village, to the pasture near the stones where Daralini's name still echoes, even in silence. There's something waiting for me there. A tree I don't remember. It shouldn't be there. No one planted it. But it stands. Tall, young, strong, with bark the color of ash and leaves shaped like teardrops. At its base, a stone marker. No carving, just a spiral. And a bell. Not hanging. Set into the earth. The same spiral that Esme traced in the weaver's hut. The same one drawn in the dirt by children. The same one that burned itself behind my eyes when I first began to doubt. I kneel there, letting the rain mix with my breath. And for the first time since the first name I ever sealed, I speak aloud. I'm sorry. Not for show, not for forgiveness, but for truth. I let the words sit in the wet grass. Let them sink down past roots and soil and the bones of those who never got to speak for themselves. Then I rise, and I ring the bell once. It doesn't chime. It hums, a low, trembling sound that vibrates more in the chest than in the ears. Behind me, I hear the crunch of footsteps. It's the boy again, the one from the well. He stands beside me, not asking why I'm here. He knows. He hands me something small, a feather from a dove, still white, unburnt. She dropped it, he says. The girl who hums. She said you'd know where it belongs. I look at the bell, at the spiral, at the tree that shouldn't be here, and I press the feather into the soft earth at the tree's base. It stays, upright, still, and somehow complete. As we walk back, he asks quietly, "Is it over now?" And I say the truest thing I can. No. But it's begun. I wake before the bell. Not from a dream, from stillness. A kind of waking that doesn't begin with movement, but with awareness. The air is softer. The rain has passed. The silence outside feels full, not hollow. I rise and open the shutter. Mist lingers low over the village like breath on a mirror. The square is empty, but it's a different kind of empty now. Not abandoned, not fearful, just resting. Like a stage between scenes, waiting for the next act to begin. Today is the solstice, the shortest day, the longest shadow. The day the sun brushes the earth like a secret, then slips away before anyone notices. There would have been a trial today. Always has been, every solstice since I arrived. A ritual, a warning, a fire to keep the dark from settling too deep. But not this year, not anymore. I walk the greens slowly, hands bare, no coat, no seal, no book of names. People nod, children wave. One boy, not more than 5, points to the sky and says to his mother, "That's where the crows live." She looks up and laughs, light and surprised. I want to tell him that once I believed the crows followed me for darker reasons, but today I let it be. Let the sky belong to birds again. By mid-morning, a gathering forms near the tree. The new one, the one that shouldn't be there. No one organized it, no one called it, but still they come, with bread, with candles, with stories in their mouths. Esme is already there, seated on the bench with a ribbon in her hair. Red, bright as memory. She looks at me and pats the space beside her. I sit. She says nothing. She doesn't have to. The wind moves gently through the tree, rustling its silver-gray leaves, and then the singing begins. It's not loud. It's not rehearsed. It begins with a girl, the one who hums. She sings the 3 notes, rising, falling, rising again. Others pick it up, softly, timidly, like remembering the tune of a lullaby they were told to forget. I close my eyes and let the sound move through me. It doesn't feel like resistance. It feels like repair. A woman steps forward, places a small bowl of milk at the base of the tree. "For Dara," she says. A man lays down a pair of broken spectacles. "For Ewan," he whispers. One by one, they come. Names spoken not in accusation, but in reverence. The ones we burned, the ones we buried, the ones we forgot, and the ones we almost did. The curate reads aloud from the journal. Not the charges, not the accusations, but the corrections, the footnotes, the second thoughts written too late. He chokes on a name, and someone else takes over. No shame. Only breath passed from one voice to the next. I add nothing, only listen, and feel something I haven't in a long time. Not redemption, not peace, but presence. The full weight of what has happened, and what didn't have to. When the last name is read, a child walks forward with the humming stone, places it gently into a shallow hole dug by quiet hands. The bell rings. Not from wind, not from string. It rings because someone, I do not see who, touched it with love. The sound is different now. Clear, bright, not mournful. It doesn't echo, it lingers. As the people begin to disperse, Esme places her hand on mine. "There's one more thing," she says. I look at her. She points to the weaver's hut. "The loom," she says. "You should finish it." I blink. I've never woven. She smiles. "You've been weaving the whole time." That evening I return to her hut. The loom waits, thread half spun, pattern uncertain, but the warp is strong and the weft is ready. I sit and begin, not quickly, not well, but with care, one thread at a time. Each pass a name, each pull a memory, each knot a promise. Outside the moon rises, crows settle into branches without fear, and somewhere far behind me, buried deep in earth that no longer hides what it once held, a girl's voice hums, and this time, the shadows hum back. The weaving takes hours, or maybe days. Time folds in strange ways at the loom. The shuttle slips between threads like breath between sentences. Forward, back, forward again. Each motion slow, deliberate, as if the fabric must absorb not just color and tension, but memory. The thread is coarse, uneven. Some of it dyed with soot, some with ash, some with something that glimmers faintly in firelight. Esme told me once that the old weavers used to spin from whatever the wind left behind. Sheep's wool, yes, but also crow feathers, pine needles, the strands of dreams that caught in branches and wouldn't let go. The pattern reveals itself slowly. Spirals. Not perfect. Not symmetrical. But true. A language older than ink. My hands ache. My back knots. But I don't stop. Because this isn't just thread. It's a record. A reckoning. The room smells of wood smoke and rosemary. Rainwater in the corners. Candle wax dripped in a rhythm I now recognize from the girl's lullaby. The same three-note melody. Rising, falling, rising again, and then a knock. Gentle, twice. I don't answer immediately, but the door opens anyway. It's the boy from the well. Taller now. Still with those sharp eyes that see more than they're supposed to. He carries a piece of parchment. Rolled, sealed in black wax. My stomach tightens. "Where did you get that?" He shrugs, but his voice is steady. "The constable left it at the chapel, before he went." I take the scroll, unroll it slowly. It isn't a list. It's a name. Just one. Mine. No charges, no accusations. Just a sentence. "You were the last hunter. Let it end with you." Below it, a second line, written in smaller script. "If you agree, burn this." I stare at the words, then at the boy. He doesn't speak, but his eyes are asking the question. "What will you do?" I tear the parchment slowly, fold the pieces, feed them to the fire beside the loom. They burn quickly, cleanly, without protest. When the last ash curls into the smoke, I say aloud, "It ends with me." The boy nods, but doesn't leave. Instead, he pulls something from his pocket. A stone, smooth, pale gray, etched with a spiral I didn't teach him. "I found it by the river," he says, "where you cried." I look up sharply. He smiles, almost shy. "I think she left it for you." I take it carefully. The moment it touches my palm, warmth blooms. Not heat, not magic. Recognition. A memory I didn't know I still carried surfaces. That moment by the river, lamb lost, hands numb, face wet, whispering into nothing. "Please, someone." And someone had answered. I just wasn't ready to hear them yet. Until now. I press the stone into the center of the weave. It holds. It belongs. The boy steps back, satisfied. "I'm going to build a new well." he says suddenly. Why? He grins. The old one talks too much. I laugh. Where will you build it? He shrugs. Where the crows land. He leaves without saying goodbye. I sit in the quiet again, watching the cloth grow under my hands. Outside, dusk falls. The bell doesn't ring tonight, because there's nothing to warn against. Only something to wait for. A visitor. A silence. A new sound rising out of an old story. When the final thread is tied, the cloth is imperfect, slanted at one end, frayed at the corner, but it is whole, and it tells the truth. That's enough. I fold it, not for keeping, for giving, and I walk it through the village under starlight, to the chapel, to the altar, and I lay it there. No blessing, no blood, just the memory of hands that once pointed, now offering something back. The curate finds it in the morning. He doesn't know what it means, not fully, but he places a sprig of heather on top of it and leaves the door open for whoever comes next. There is no ceremony, no grand farewell, no procession, no speeches. Only me, a cloak over my shoulders, and the sound of wet leaves beneath my boots. I leave before dawn, not to disappear, just to step back. The village no longer needs a hunter, and I'm not something else yet. Not a priest, not a leader, not a keeper of laws or rituals, just someone who once stood in firelight and mistook it for truth. Now I carry quieter things, stories, fragments, and a small cloth bundle tied with crow feather string, tucked in the curve of my pack. The weaving, the stone, a charm the children made from wax and heather and a cracked bell clapper. They said it was for remembering. The wind follows me gently. No accusation, just presence, like it's making sure I don't forget where I came from. At the first rise past the weaver's hut, I stop and turn. The village lies below like a drawing sketched in ash and water. Thin smoke from a few chimneys. The bell visible in the square, unmoved. But it will ring again. Not because someone commands it, because someone will need it, and the bell will know. I follow the path through the trees. Not the path I took to find Esme the first time. A different one, smaller, less worn. It winds through brush and under limbs heavy with last night's rain. Moss covers most of it. Stones jut up like bones in soft earth. It leads nowhere I've ever been. And that's the point. Somewhere along the slope, a fox watches me from the edge of the thicket. Its eyes catch the light, then blink slowly as if to say, "You're not being chased anymore." The air thickens with pine and wet bark. Somewhere, a stream is singing, and beneath it, humming. I stop walking, strained to hear. It's faint, familiar. The girl's melody. Those three notes again, rising, falling, rising, stretched thin by distance, by moss, by time. But it's still there. She's still there. They are. Not ghosts, not spirits, not memories. Just truth in its oldest form, song. I follow it. Not quickly, not urgently, just steadily. I come to a clearing I didn't know existed. Rings of standing stones, half sunken, soft with lichen. In the center, a basin carved into the earth itself. Not stone, not wood, just ground, shaped like a waiting hand. It smells of lavender and of something else. Smoke that's never burned. I set the bundle down, unwrap it, lay the cloth in the basin, the stone at its center, the charm beside it. Nothing happens, but that's the miracle. I don't need something to happen. I just need it to remain. The village has begun to forget how to forget, and that is enough. I sit in the clearing until night. The stars come slowly, and then all at once. I whisper each name I remember. Each one I buried with a seal, each one I carry still, not to ask for forgiveness, not to erase, but to keep. Not as a hunter, not as a priest, just as a witness, someone who looked away for too long, and then didn't. I do not return to the village that night. I sleep among the stones, wrapped in quiet, cradled by soil and sky. The last sound I hear before sleep takes me as a bell, ringing once, far away, and not for me, for someone new, someone just beginning. The morning mist curls low across the ground, soft as breath on skin. I wake slowly, as if from beneath something warm and old, not quite sleep, not quite dreaming. The clearing holds me like it knows who I am now, not as a trespasser, as part of it. The birds begin first, then the trees, then the hum. Not the girl's melody this time, a new one, shorter, slower, listening, more than singing. The basin is unchanged. The cloth remains where I placed it, undisturbed. The charm has shifted slightly, turned by the wind or some unseen hand. The stone still glows faintly in its spiral groove, catching morning light like it remembers where it came from. I don't touch any of it. Some things are meant to stay exactly where they rest. Instead, I walk the perimeter of the clearing, trailing my fingers across moss-slicked stone. The standing stones are taller than I noticed before. They lean slightly inward, not as if falling, as if convening. A council of what was, or what will be. I trace the runes cut into one of them, faint, cracked, half lost to rain and time. But I recognize the symbol beneath them, the broken circle, the one from the gravedigger's journal, the one on the door beneath the chapel. But here it's mended, the crack stitched closed with a carved spiral, like a thread winding through stone, a seal no longer broken. I close my eyes, listen, and there it is again. The question I thought had ended. Is it over? And my answer is still the same. No, but it's begun. I descend from the clearing before noon, following a different trail now. One less tangled, a footpath, narrow but worn. People have walked it recently. At the edge of the forest, I find them. Children. A handful, sitting cross-legged in the grass, listening intently to a woman with silver-threaded hair and a voice made of dusk. It's Esme. She's telling a story. No names, just images. A girl who sang to the moon. A bell that rang without hands. A hunter who forgot what he was hunting. A tree that grew where a fire once burned. One child raises her hand. But what happened to the village? Esme looks at her, then glances up, sees me standing there. We exchange no words. She simply smiles and says, "It remembered how to dream." I stay for the rest of the story, then help carry their baskets back. They collect roots now, and herbs. Things once feared, now tended. Mara, the girl who used to speak to shadows, walks beside me. She no longer hums in secret. She hums for herself, for the earth, for the crows, who follow her now like quiet guardians. At the chapel, the curate meets us at the door. He's different, too. His robes are simpler, his hands stained with garden soil. He bows to Mara, not out of reverence, out of respect. Then he nods at me. "Will you stay?" I don't answer right away, because I don't know. I only know this. I no longer need to stay, and that means I could choose to. That night, as the sky bruises into blue, I sit once more by the bell. Not to ring it, to listen. A girl ties a ribbon to its hook, green this time. A boy lays a stone beneath it, small, round, etched with a spiral he carved himself. A widow kisses her fingers and presses them to the wood of the bench. And I realize something I hadn't before. They don't need a hunter. They don't need a priest. They don't even need a keeper. They just need witnesses. And each of them now is learning how to be one. That night, the bell rings 3 times. No one claims to have touched it, and no one asks who did. Because they all know. It wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. To come back. To remember. To begin again. I leave again, but this time, they know I will return. There is no farewell. No eyes cast down. No bread wrapped in cloth with hands that shake. No whispered warnings to beware the woods. Just a few nods. A smile from the baker. The boy at the well tipping an imaginary cap. Esme gives me a walking stick carved with the spiral. Not to lean on, she says, but to mark my path behind me. The trail is clearer now. Worn not by feet, but by memory. Each step I take feels less like leaving and more like continuing a story that doesn't end at the edge of the village. The path climbs, not steeply, but steadily. It leads past the place where the old pyres once stood. There's no sign of them now. Grass has grown, wildflowers rise like apologies. The stone where the seal was once struck now holds a carved bowl. Inside it, water, still and clear, a mirror for the sky. Someone, I don't know who, has made this place into something else. A sanctuary, maybe, or a marker. Not of death, of change. I drop a pebble into the bowl, watch the ripples, not because I expect an answer, just because I like knowing the water listens. From there I walk until the forest returns. Not dark, not dense, just present. The way an old friend stands beside you without needing to speak. And then I see her. Mara, she's older again, or maybe just taller. She stands beside a newly planted tree, not yet leafed. Its trunk thin as a wrist, its roots protected by a woven mat of dried grass. She doesn't look surprised. I knew you'd come, she says. Is this yours? I ask, nodding at the tree. She shakes her head. It's Dara's. The name lands softly. She continues. She asked for this. Not in words. In songs, I walk closer. The tree bends slightly in the wind, like it's nodding. She sings to me sometimes, Mara says. Not in my ears, in my bones. And what does she say? Mara turns to me, and with the calm certainty of someone who no longer doubts, she replies, not all endings burn. I sit beside her. We watch the wind. I pull out the cloth from my pack, the weaving. She traces it with one finger, stopping at the stone. The path, she whispers. You've walked it far. I nod. And? It circles back. To where? To now. She seems to understand. Children appear, quietly. They carry candles. Not lit. They place them in a circle around the tree. Then they sit. Not to play. To listen. There is no music. But somehow, there is song. One voice starts, then another. Low. Gentle. A hum of remembrance. Not mournful. Warm. The curate comes, carrying the bell. He hangs it on a new branch. He doesn't say why. He doesn't have to. And then the wind picks up. Just enough. Just right. And the bell rings. Once. Twice. 3 times. Clear. Even. True. We stay there as night falls. No fire needed. The stars are enough. Esme arrives last. Not to lead. To witness. She sits at the edge of the clearing, weaving something in her lap. Not cloth, a crown, of herbs and twine and threadbare ribbon. She doesn't say who it's for, but when she finishes, she places it at the base of the tree. A gift, a prayer, a promise. When the children drift to sleep and the candles finally flicker out, I walk once more to the basin where the water reflects the sky, and I see her. Not Dara. Me. As I was. As I am. As I might yet become. And for the first time, I do not flinch. I smile. and the reflection smiles back. Not in relief, in understanding. The fire is gone, but the warmth remains. The sky is pale when I wake. Not with sunlight, but with that soft, slate blue glow that comes just before it. The air carries the hush of something sacred, not holy, but held. Like the world itself has paused to let a thought finish forming, I rise without sound. The clearing still cradles the children, asleep in soft clusters like wildflowers. The candles have all gone out. The bell rests quiet in the branches above, its tongue still, but its presence humming. Esme is gone. So is Mara. Only the tree remains, young, sure of its place, its bark darkening with dew. I walk once more through the waking village. They see me, but they do not follow. They do not ask where I'm going. They already know. I stop at the square. The bench is empty, worn smooth by memory and time. Someone has placed a piece of honeycomb on the stone where the gallows once stood. Bees circle it lazily in the dawn air. It drips slowly, gold and glistening. I sit, not to wait, to witness. A girl passes, no more than 7, her arms full of twigs. She stops, glances at me and says, "Are you the one who used to catch witches?" I meet her eyes. There's no fear in them, only wonder. I answer honestly. "I thought I was." She nods. "Did you find one?" A long pause. Then I say, "Yes." And she asks, "What did you do?" I smile. "I listened." She grins, satisfied, and skips away, dropping one twig behind her. I pick it up. It's carved. Not well, not deep. But the spiral is unmistakable. A child's mark. The future etched in uncertain hands. I walk to the chapel. The door is open. Inside, the curate kneels, repainting the wall where the old seal once hung. He's covering it with pigment ground from ochre and charcoal. Soft earth tones. A spiral in white chalk outlines the base. Around it, he's painting vines. He doesn't look up as I enter. Just says, "If the seal must return, let it be alive." Outside again, the sun begins to rise. Gentle, quiet, unworried. I take the long road east, past the place where the tree grows, past the clearing where I first heard my name, past the roots of the stories I used to fear, and when I reach the hill where the forest thins, I stop. One last time. First turn. The village lies behind me, wrapped in soft gold, tucked beneath mist. But it doesn't feel behind. It feels within. A part of me I can return to, not because I must, but because I can. And when I go beyond this hill, when my feet touch new soil and my breath meets unfamiliar air, I will carry no seal, no title, only the sound of a bell that chose to remember instead of judge, only the hum of a girl who refused to be silent, only a name I finally remembered and let go. This is how it ends. Not with fire, with thread, not with silence, with song, not with a hunt, but a homecoming. And if someday, far from here, I hear another bell, uncertain, uneven, rung in fear, I will know what to do. I will sit and listen and let the story begin again. So now, let yourself drift. Let your breath soften. You've walked through fog and fire, through lies and lullabies, through names carved in stone and whispered in soil. You followed the path of a hunter who thought they were certain and became someone who listened. You felt the cold of the gallows, the warmth of a child's hum. You stood beneath a bell that once meant fear and watched it become a song. Maybe in the hush between moments, you heard something of yourself, a silence that needed naming, a question left open, a memory not yet forgiven. That's all right. Stories like this aren't meant to close tightly. They breathe with you. So settle now. Let the spiral turn in your thoughts one last time. Not as a warning, as a rhythm. You're not the same as when you began. You've sat in shadow. You've watched truth uncoil like smoke. You've seen what happens when we choose remembering over revenge. You've been part of this story, not watching, but living it. Right here, right now, and now. It's time to return. Let your muscles loosen. Let your eyelids grow heavy. Let your breath carry you gently away from moss and bells and names. There's nothing to fear in forgetting for a while, because you've remembered enough for tonight. You've been there. Now come back slowly. Come back to your bed. Come back to your breath. Come back to the quiet, carrying only what you need. Tomorrow can wait. Tonight belongs to you.